I'd really like to introduce Ariel from Encounter Latin America. He is currently over in Buenos Aires because that's where he lives. And Ariel has an inspiring and very tempting slideshow, as you might have seen from the first page when you just joined us there. So yes, make sure that you have your drink ready and you're comfortable, and please enjoy. So over to you, Ariel.
Thank you and welcome everybody. As Melissa mentioned, my name is Ariel. I've been assistant fellow travel counselors for the last 5 years or so, and I've been a travel specialist at Encounter Latin America for almost 12 years now. I live in Buenos Aires. I enjoy running and playing football, and actually you can see me here on top of Machu Picchu wearing my River Plate jersey. I hope this webinar gets you excited about my country because it's filled with natural wonders. And if some of you want to put that glass of wine up and toast, make sure it's a Malbec. That's a traditional wine from here. Or you can enjoy mate like we do over here as well. Well, Buenos Aires is a very vertiginous city and filled with cultural attractions. Our country, Argentina, is a majestic place, especially with Patagonia, that will humble you with the grandeur and splendor of both nature and landscapes, as well as fauna. We used to say, bienvenidos, che. Bienvenidos is welcome, and che is actually an onomatopoeia that we use as a pronoun, mainly to call attention or to call on somebody. If I say, for example, che Melissa, it will be like saying, hey Melissa, or hi, how are you? And meaning like, do you want to get some wine? Che, do you want to get some wine? So make sure you use it properly, but it's a good way to use with somebody that you know of. I'm going to get you started with a quick video about our country, and then we're going to dive into Patagonia. Oops. 1 second.
What are you going to do when this is all over? Walk places that seem to belong to another planet. Climb mountains to get the best views. Feel the adrenaline of extreme sports. Enjoy romantic days and magical nights. Learn about new cultures. Live like locals do. Travel alone, with family or friends. Get in tune with the countryside and connect with nature. Feel free again. Reach the end of the world to start all over. Choose your next adventure. Visit Argentina.
All right. So when's the best time to travel to Argentina? We do have a wide variety of ecosystems, so you can say that the country can be visited year-round, but some destinations may be having better climate at some point of the year than the others. For example, for Patagonia, which is going to be our focus today, the best period of travel, it's going to go between October and March, which is our spring and summer, mainly because Patagonia does get very cold weathers. So spring and summer is going to be the best period of time to visit for those elements. And also because how fauna in some places does come and go. If we're talking about the Argentinian Northwest, then we usually suggest September through April. April through September. And it is an opposite to Patagonia, but not because the Northwest cannot be visited on the other months, but again, it's because of weather. Winter in the Northwest, where we have high altitude deserts, is usually milder in these areas. So it's not going to get as hot as during the summer period. Mendoza can be visited year-round, but October through March is a great period because you'll see everything flourish, especially all the vineyards. And Buenos Aires, Iguazu are year-round destinations. So our itinerary will get us started in Buenos Aires. Then we're going to head south to Puerto Madryn, Ushuaia, and then as we start to climb back up, we go through Calafate, Bariloche, and back to Buenos Aires prior to getting back home. So Buenos Aires is our capital city. It has 2 airports that cater for all travelers. Ezeiza is the international airport, which is located about 40 minutes south from the downtown areas, whereas Aeroparque is the domestic airport and is about 15 minutes from the main areas of accommodation. I do point out over here, and you can see on the presentation, Palermo as a good area. It's an area that usually we suggest for accommodation because it has small boutique hotels. We try to stay away from the big chain places to give you a more homely feel. And it's an area with lots of restaurants, up-and-coming designer shops, and it's a great place to stay at night. While during the daytime, you're going to be visiting the central areas or San Telmo and La Boca, which are all the way in the downtown region. So for many years, Buenos Aires has been called the Paris of South America. And this is mainly because of the 1920s French architecture in many of the downtown buildings. And also because of the big avenues and park resemblances that, and parks, and how the trees are also lined up along the street that give the resemblance to Paris. The city has a lot more than that to offer, especially nowadays where, as I mentioned, coming into Palermo or other neighborhoods, the city is spreading both for locals and travelers to be able to enjoy many other places outside of the downtown areas that you can see on some of these images. Of course, you're not going to miss out on places such as the obelisk in the downtown area and also 9 de Julio Avenue, the Corrientes Avenue where you have the theater district, or if you go into downtown area to May Square or onto San Telmo, where you have part of our history and how the city was originally built. But if you want to actually go feel like a local, you may want to try a bondiola sandwich, which is a pork shoulder sandwich in one of the quite popular street food stalls that are located in the Costanera. The Costanera is the riverside. Or you may want to check out the bar scene in restaurants in Palermo. And you can also see some of the speakeasy bars that we still have, such as Bradley, Frank's, or Uptown. And of course, football is a big thing over here. I'm a River Plate fan, so I'm not going to discuss Boca over here in this presentation, but I just want to let you know that Buenos Aires is one of the cities with the most amount of teams in the world. Just to let you know, we have more than 20 teams between all the categories within the city. So you can imagine it's a lot of fans and a lot of fervor going around. So for Buenos Aires, we're going to head to Puerto Madryn. And throughout the presentation, you're going to hear me always compare distances between kilometers and hours of bus ride with flights. Argentina is quite a big country. So usually for most destinations and connections, we do suggest a flight overtaking a bus. We do have a great long bus system, a coach system. We don't have long trains for that part. But for example, as we take this first trip, we had to consider the flight from Buenos Aires to Trelew, which is the closest airport to Puerto Madryn, takes about 2 hours, while a bus, it's going to be an overnight service taking between 18 to 20 hours, depending on the service you book. So you can imagine already, if you're a little bit strapped with time, taking a flight is going to make it a lot easier than actually going by bus. So as I mentioned, you fly to Puerto Madryn, which is the closest airport to Trelew, and to Trelew, which is the closest airport to Puerto Madryn, which are located about an hour away. When planning a trip to this destination, you need to take into consideration the fauna calendar. The best time to travel is for sure between mid-September and mid-December, which is the moment basically where we're going to be able to match the most representative species. The whales over here you can see, and also the penguins. While heading into Puerto Madryn, we strongly suggest taking the navigation to check out the whales up close, because they're actually going to come right up to your Zodiac boat and you see them face to face, and it's a really great experience. Whales usually do come here between mid-June to mid-December, and they also do, as part of their breeding and nesting in Doradillo Beach, which is closer to Puerto Madryn than heading all the way to Punta Piramides, where you board either the Zodiac, or over here you see the submarine to catch on the whales. The other excursion that you can actually enjoy part of the local fauna is called the Punta Tombo Reservoir. or reserve. The reserve is located about 3 hours away from Puerto Madryn, and it's actually closer to Trelew. So it's usual that when you're flying into Trelew, you'll head straight on to visit Punta Tombo, and then go back to Puerto Madryn for your rest for the end of the day. That way, you're not traveling back and forth between places. Of course, the most important thing is that the penguins do have crossing priority in the park, so they will be coming back and forth on the protected area, and you walk around and they're gonna cross you. Just make sure you let them do their thing, and this way we can still preserve nature. Other species that actually you can see in the region are going to be orcas, bottlenose dolphins, commerson dolphins. You're going to see a lot of different types of birds, sea lions, and sea elephants. So you can see this region is really, really very well catered with lots of different types of fauna, mainly sea fauna, but you also see some locals such as small rabbits called maras, and other local species as well while staying on land. So as we leave Puerto Madryn, once again, we're going to be traveling to Trelew Airport, and then we fly to Ushuaia, again, a 2-hour flight, which would otherwise mean over 20 hours by bus, with a change of bus in Rio Gallegos. And then you actually have to cross border into Chile and then back onto Argentina, because you have to go through Magellan Strait. So it can be a little bit tiring doing all this by land. Ushuaia was originally settled as a prison island for most dangerous criminals. It's also, and this became part of the attraction because you can still visit the old prison and walk as you walk around town. And it also has the Maritime Museum located over there. The inmates were the ones who actually built the end of the world train to transport wood from the nowadays national park into the city for constructions. So this destination will offer us a bit of mix with the landscapes, both in the national park and then into the Beagle Bay and the Beagle Channel. So activities related to the Beagle Channel are mainly focused between October through March, because that's where you're going to be able to see penguins. You'll see here emperor penguins, and then you see the Magellan penguins in Punta Tombo. And then you also get to see sea lions and cormorants as well. For those looking for a little bit of adventure, of course, you can do some 4x4 wheel drives into the national park and into what is called the Lake Fagnano and Escondido that you can see on some of the video over here. And if you're looking to for the gastro tip of this destination is to be actually having king crab, which is going to be fresh fish from the channel. So it's a great experience to have, and there are really good places to have it. Now here's when we're going to have our first fork on the trip. It's going to be for Antarctica, which is a very well-known and also very sought-after destination. You have to be mindful that for Antarctica, you're going to be needing between 10 to 12 days, depending on the cruise you book. What makes it very special, of course, is that for once, you're going to have smaller vessels with higher crew to passenger ratio, giving you a more personalized experience. And you're still going to be roughing it up a little bit, because many of the cruises that nowadays go to Antarctica were previously research vessels. So you're not going to have experiences such as a princess or a celebrity cruise, because ships here were reconverted to be able to do tourism. And most of the excursions do take place by launching off small zodiacs and then heading into islands or inlets, etc. But you get to see also nature quite up close in an area which is still very virgin in that sense. Now, as we leave Ushuaia, we go to Calafate. Again, it's an hour 30 flight, an hour and a half flight versus 20 hours by bus. Again, if you were to take the bus, you go through Magellan Channel and cross into Chile and back into Argentina. Now, as we arrive to Calafate, this one is going to be a small city compared to others in Patagonia. And of course, the highlight of this destination is the Perito Moreno Glacier, located in the national park. There are different ways to experience the glacier. You can watch it from the catwalks in front of the glacier, which will give you great views. And what we usually recommend is actually doing what is called the mini trekking, where you get your crampons on your boots and then walk on the glacier. This is a great experience. And this is also combined with partially taking a small navigation in front of the glacier wall. So you're gonna have a really up-close experience. This activity does have a limitations on age range. And usually it's only allowed between 8 to 65-year-olds, which is quite strict because the national park only gives the concession for this activity to one company and they have to follow by insurance policies. The other and most adventurous way is actually called the Big Ice, which instead of doing just a small 1 hour walk on the glacier, it's going to be a 4 hour, which is more challenging way to visit the glacier. And in any ways, whether you do the Big Ice, the mini trekking, you're still gonna get to walk and to visit the catwalk, so you're not gonna be missing out on that experience as well. There are other activities also in the Calafate region that you can do, such as visiting some local ranches, such as Estancia Cristina or Nivepo Aike, that will allow you to experience a little bit of what it's like to live in a Patagonian ranch and what their activities are and take place in this region. And of course, I'm not gonna leave out without mentioning, if you wanna try something different, this is a place to taste the Patagonian lamb, which basically falls off the bone if it's properly cooked. And here we're going to be talking about our second fork on the road for a trip, which are two potential extensions for those who actually love doing trekking. And these are either going to Torres del Paine in Chile or heading a little bit up north to El Chaltén, still in Argentina. El Chaltén is located about 3 to 4 hours away from Calafate, and it's a small, even smaller town than Calafate, and it's considered our capital of trekking in Argentina. And it has several very clear marked paths where you can do your own self-guided trek, either for half days or full days activities. So you can get to visit different types, you can get to see different views of the Fitzroy Massif. For those who are much more adventurous and want to do multi-day trekkings with camping on it, it's still a possibility. You just have to be able to be physically fit to do it, because you're also going to be taking along your own backpack with gear and so on. While going into Calafate, from Calafate to Torres del Paine, the travel time is about 5 to 6 hours, and it varies because we are crossing borders into Chile, and we have to consider that border procedures do take place as you go through customs and immigration on both countries. Torres del Paine National Park is also an amazing place to do trekking. Even if you do just the one day, which is about 22 round-trip kilometers heading into Las Torres viewpoint, you're gonna get amazing views of Las Torres Horns and Las Torres Massif as well. Or for those who want to do, again, multi-day trekkings, you can do what is called the W circuit, which is a 5 days, 4 nights hike from mountain refuge to mountain refuge. On the mountain refuges, you are sharing, having common rooms, shared rooms with others and shared services, but the experience itself is quite amazing. And as you walk around, you're not going to feel alone because there are lots of people doing the same thing and walking from place to place. But the park does have its limitations in the amount of people allowed, because they try to also preserve the national park itself. If you prefer to stay with a little bit more comfort, you do have some lodges that will offer all-inclusive type packages, which include transfers, accommodation, excursions, and meals. Considering how remote Torres del Paine is, prices in this region tend to be a little bit more expensive compared to others. Either if you go to Torres del Paine or to El Chaltén, how many nights you stay there usually depends on how much you want to experience nature. Usually for Chaltén, with 2 nights, you're gonna be having a good amount to do a couple of trekkings. If you're planning to go to Torres del Paine, I would suggest a minimum of 3 because the park is a lot bigger. And now we're gonna start heading north again, going on to Bariloche. Now, From Calafate to Bariloche, it's a 2 hours flight or 48 hours by bus. You heard me right, 2 full days. So you can see again why taking the flight is much more convenient here. There we go. So Bariloche is usually called our gateway as the lake region. And yes, you guessed right, because there are lots of lakes in the region. And it's a place where you can connect also with Chile, as if you want to go to the Chilean lake region, starting in Puerto Varas and Puerto Montt. But if you're traveling within Argentina, you can easily rent a car and go through a 7-lake route from Bariloche to Villa Langostura and on to San Martín de los Andes. The route, of course, goes across 7 lakes. That's why it's called 7-lake route. But there are amazing views of the Patagonia, of the northern Patagonia area, and you're clearly differentiating what it's like compared to Calafate, because in Calafate you have a more arid and kind of steep landscape combined with the glaciers, and here you have lots of mountains. Bariloche also has its own ski area called Catedral. So the temperatures and the landscape between summer and winter does vary a lot. And you can see over here, they're actually within Nahuel Huapi Lake, and it's also part of the Nahuel Huapi National Park. You can do even scuba diving, because the lake is actually quite deep. So you can even navigate it, and you can visit other destinations there too. Sorry about that. There we go. Go back to full screen. There we go. Here in Bariloche, for those that want to taste a little bit different, there was an old German family called the Weiss family that settled here a long time ago, and they started producing smoked goods. So you can have smoked meats such as deer and boar, and even trout and salmon. Also, this is an area where local chocolates and craft beer is produced. So lots of different things to try and taste around if you're staying in Bariloche. As our trip is getting ready and closer to an end, we're going to be traveling back from Bariloche to Buenos Aires. Again, it's a 2 hours flight, whereas by bus, it's about 23 hours. We have to be mindful when traveling from Bariloche to Buenos Aires and connecting with an international flight on the same day is that your flight usually will arrive to Aeroparque Airport, and the connection time between Aeroparque and Ezeiza International Airport is about 4 hours. So usually British Airways was flying out of Buenos Aires around 2 p.m. pre-pandemic schedules. So if you were taking that flight back home, you may want to have a buffer night in Buenos Aires before traveling away, because usually the first flight was arriving around 9 or 10 a.m. So you're a little bit tight on the connection time. In terms of accommodation categories, Argentina can offer a whole variety: comfort, superior, and luxury. That whatever you feel like, we're going to be able to find it. We usually try to offer you with small properties that have a more local feel and working with local providers rather than with big chain hotels. This will allow you to have a more local experience. And also, as we are a travel life company, we also try to work with companies that are in the process, at least, of getting their green certification, and they're working towards a more conscious work with the environment. Now I'm going to be talking about some destinations that we didn't mention throughout the trip, but are worth visiting. Of course, Mendoza is going to be at the top of that list. This is our main and most important wine production region in the country. We do have others. And of course, traveling to Mendoza, you can either stay in the city or you can actually stay in the vineyards. There are some lodges that have their own vineyards included, so you can easily wake up and walk around the vines. Of course, the main attraction is the wine, but there are lots of activities that we can do in this area. We can do horseback riding, we can do rafting, and of course, there are wine tours that are combined with different things. Of course, you can do also a bike and wine. So if by the end of the tour you're feeling a bit wobbly, you can take a bus back to the hotel instead of riding back to it. So don't worry, you're going to have a support team over there. Mendoza is also a destination that can be combined with Chile. I'm speaking a lot about the combinations with Chile because we share a whole border, a whole western border is shared with Chile. So of course, different areas can be combined. And Mendoza is not exception because we combine it straight onto Santiago, the capital of Chile. And you can also ship bottles of wine back home, so you don't have to drink it all on spot. So don't worry about that. Here we're talking about the Argentina Northwest, something I briefly touched at the beginning of the presentation. And Salta is usually the place where people arrive and depart from to visit this region, which is combined of two provinces, Salta and Jujuy. The main attractions over here are Cafayate, which is located south of Salta, where we produce the Torrontés wine. You can see over there at the picture at the bottom. And it's a more fruity and sweet white wine. And part of the sweetness comes because it's a high altitude wine. Or if you're heading a bit to the north and onto Jujuy, then you're going to go into Humahuaca Gorge, which is a UNESCO Heritage Natural Monument. And you can see part of the landscapes that you can see on the top picture with the 7-color hill. And if you want to combine with Chile, you'll go across to San Pedro Atacama. And if you go to Bolivia, you keep going north, eventually you get to Uyuni salt flats. But also in Jujuy, you can find salt flats. You don't have to travel all the way to Bolivia to do it. Last but not least, of course, the famous Iguazu Falls. We couldn't leave them out. The first time I went there, I was gladly surprised because of the immensity and the power actually of the falls themselves. You can visit them both from Argentina and from Brazil. We share the border, and both national parks are basically divided in half by the falls. So you can get to see the falls from both viewpoints. Going into the Devil's Throat, either from the Argentinian side or from the Brazilian side, you get to see how small you can feel and how powerful actually the falls are as water starts falling. And for those who are a little bit adventurous, you can take the boat that will take you right underneath the falls so you can get wet, feeling that spray on your face, which is amazing. And also it was a great destination to end your trip if you then want to go on to Brazil, because crossing the border to Brazil to Foz do Iguaçu, you can then take a local flight and fly on to Rio. So that makes it also easier to connect with multiple countries as well. So how do we go about planning your next amazing holiday in Argentina? Of course, first you're gonna reach out to Melissa, have a chat, glass of wine or beer, we don't judge, or two. That's your poison. And share your ideas with her. What do you like and what do you want to include? And of course, she's going to reach out to us and we're gonna come around with those ideas with that draft that we're gonna be presenting to you. And we love feedback. So anything you want us to look into to improve that holiday, please share with us, because it's the only way we can make that truly amazing for you. And once you're ready to book, just send Melissa an email and then get ready to pack your bags, because we'll be taking care of you all the way till you get back home. We have our own team on spot with 24 hours emergency numbers, either for WhatsApp or mobile, and as well as emails. So we want to make sure everything runs like clockwork for you. All right, now it's time for you not to be shy, and we can answer any questions you may have.
Thank you so much, Ariel. That was amazing. That was so inspiring, and some of the images and ideas that you've got for itineraries is just incredible. And it feels like you should probably have to go for at least a few months to be able to fit all of that in. I mean, there's just so much to do, isn't there?
Yes, it was a tough part, actually, building a small trip by which had to focus on Patagonia for starters, and that's why we didn't want to miss out on the rest of the destinations as a potential extensions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Something, that I was mentioning earlier is that we do have a great variety of natural attractions, so it's very hard for us to actually say pick one or another. And basically, we have something for everybody. If you feel like going to waterfalls, we have Iguazu. If you like glaciers, we have Calafate, and so on. So
Yeah, absolutely. For nature of all sorts, really, the wildlife and the vegetation as well. Just so much to see. And I love the mention of some of the food and drinks there as well. So yeah, the king crab and wine primarily sounds pretty perfect. And I have had a couple of questions that have come to me while you've been presenting. So
Right.
I will just ask them. But one of them is about the elephant seals, actually. So I'm not sure how familiar you are with elephant seals, but do you know how big the male elephant seals actually grow to?
No, I'm not that proficient on the natural part. On
Pretty
nature itself. Yeah, pretty specific, but we can find out probably.
and pretty big. No, I think it's yeah, I think someone is currently reading a book about Argentina, and it mentions about the elephant seals and quite how sizable they are. So just double checking, see if they were right.
Just as a rough search, I can see that they can be between 2,200 to 4,000 kilograms. So that's quite heavy.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And just, I mean, I know that you wouldn't actually be in amongst those, but you're still kind of close enough to be able to see the size of those, and then with the other wildlife around, like, yeah.
When I was in Puerto Madryn and I went onto Peninsula Valdez on the reservoir, actually the closest I got, in order not to disturb them, because actually there was a whole colony over there, I think I was probably about 20 meters from them, but I was in an elevated position, so I wasn't even though I was quite close, there wasn't even a chance for me to disturb them. So yeah, it was a quite close experience.
That's probably close enough for you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so you mentioned a little bit about horse riding, and particularly in Mendoza, but are there any other parts that you would suggest is good specifically for horse riding?
Well, there are for example, that depends on what are we looking in terms of horse riding. Actually, close to Buenos Aires, about an hour away from the city, there's a ranch called Puesto Viejo, and they are actually a polo ranch, because they do play polo over there and they train polo horses. Okay. So you can go there, do horseback riding, and you can even take a polo lesson, for example. Mm-hmm. And if you are there when they have some game day, you actually get to see some matches. There are also like many destinations where they offer horseback riding as part of the activities. If you go to Esteros de Liberá, which is not a destination we cover here, but it's basically our small version of Pantanal in Brazil, basically marshes. Mm-hmm. You get to do horseback riding within marsh regions and marshes regions and so on. And we do have a ranch over there called La Pelada, that they focus also on horse breeding, so you can do horseback riding over there. In Salta, you can also do horseback riding. Actually, we do work with a local ranch over there too, in a place called Chicuana, which is about 60-70 kilometers from Salta City. Mm-hmm. So you go there for a full day. You're gonna be living with a local gaucho. Gauchos are the cowboys over here. Okay. So you're gonna be with a gaucho from Salta and his experience over there, and you go horseback riding within different fields, actually, that are planted fields, and then you are back at the ranch for lunch and have a nice barbecue and relax over there too. So yeah, horseback riding as a half or a full day activity you can do in many places in Argentina.
Yeah. Fabulous. So yeah, lots of options there. And if you're wanting more days or anything, or staying at the ranches, is that an option?
Depending on the destination, yes. On some destinations we can do multi-day horseback riding. On some, it's only a half or a full day option. Yeah. But yeah, depending on what's the requirement, we can actually look into it.
Great, thank you. One of the images that you had of the 7 colored hills,
Yeah.
What gives them the colors?
Basically, that's erosion of thousands of years. So the erosion goes on different ages, made different colors on the hills. You can actually see something very similar in Peru, on the Rainbow Mountain close to Cusco. It's the same thing. Erosion started playing on different ages from glacial and onwards, started shaping, and then, of course, discoloring.
Yeah. And are you able, because in Peru you can go up the Rainbow hills, can't you? Can you here as well in Argentina?
The seven color mountain which is located in Purmamarca is not climbable, but the mountain itself, which is it's a hill, is located on right next to Purmamarca. So if you're staying in Purmamarca at night, you're actually facing the mountain, and it's right next to you, face to face. And there's a small trail that goes actually around it.
Okay. Nice. Okay, and the last question that I have been sent is, so what would you say is the perfect duration, given that you've mentioned that there'll be potentially quite a few flights, obviously to cut out the immense travel time by buses, but obviously going to the airport and flying, if you took in a few flights, then that can also get quite exhausting. So wondering maybe if you would therefore then have, you know, a good couple of days in a place then to kind of just settle in a little bit more. So ideally what would
with this presentation, we thought about it with 12 days, which also gives you that option to expand on some of the destinations that in case I want to have a little bit extra here, maybe in Calafate, or a little bit extra in Bariloche, or I want to expand and include Iguazu, for example, because it's not on the main trip idea. Usually a 2-week trip, it's something that we recommend in Argentina. If you're having 3 weeks available, then we're off to a great start, because you're going to be having a much more relaxed pace. Then if you let us know, hey, let's take up Bariloche, we expand on the other destinations for extra nights, so we're not rushing so much, we can do that too. That depends on what are your preferences and what are your likes in terms of I want to see this or that, and then how we put that wish list together to make sure we include everything.
Okay, so your 12 days of exploration is kind of a great basis, somewhere to start for us to have a look at and see what would be appropriate and add or whatever as we wish, really.
Yeah.
Okay, and one other that's just come in. So the national parks, the people who look after the national parks seem to be very conscious about the environment and kind of maintaining standards and for tourists and things like, I mean, maintaining standards and not letting them get overrun with tourists. And as a company, how do you match that, and how do you work with environmental issues?
Perfect. Well, as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, at the end of last year, we became Travel Life certified. Travel Life is an organization that actually is looking forward to working with companies transversally all around in the travel industry to make sure we're all working towards a greener and reducing our carbon footprint. Along those lines, we also have to work not only ourselves as a company in reducing our own carbon footprint, but with our suppliers as well. Transportation, guides, accommodation. The standards that we have to uphold, we also have to look for those that are working with us as well. So we try to work with hotels that are at least working with some elements, trying to go greener. The companies that we use, or even the tours that we offer, we try to offer tours that are going to have the lesser impact possible on nature. And of course, we have our own team that is looking forward on each destination, and then with each supplier to see how we can work better towards those goals.
Brilliant. That's great. That's really clear, and thank you for explaining that. if anyone else has any questions, please feel free to unmute or message in the chat box at the bottom. But that's everything that I have. So yeah, I hope everyone has enjoyed the presentation, enjoyed learning, hopefully a little bit at least, about an incredibly fascinating part of the world, and one which we haven't featured at all yet with our travel taster sessions. And hopefully in the future we'll be having Ariel back to look at other parts of Latin America, because there's just so much, and obviously we want to keep the sessions relatively concise, so focusing on Argentina as opposed to, you know, Chile as well, and Bolivia. So I wanted to kind of keep it more focused on that. So I think it's been fantastic, so thank you very much. And yeah, if anyone does have any feedback, again, do let me know. That would be really appreciated. And if there are any specific destinations that you would you'd want to see, then let me know as well. So we are now on every 2 weeks for our travel taster sessions. So the next one is the 8th of June, where we're welcoming Kay back from Wide Eyed Tours, and she will be telling us all about Vietnam and Cambodia. So definitely flipping across the world and round everywhere, so right across the other side again. So there'll be some beautiful, very colourful images, and hopefully lots more inspiration there as well. So yeah, I hope everyone has enjoyed it, and if you have any feedback or any questions at any point, then please give me a call or send me an email. That would be fantastic. And I will look forward to seeing you all in a couple of weeks.